The movie was pretty good, wasn't it? Now, I'm going to give a spoiler warning for not only this video, but like a bunch of videos afterwards. And that's because I've thought of a pretty fun idea. So instead of reviewing the movie by itself, I'm going to be talking about it while I take a look at the toys, the figures. There are some good points and bad points about this. The good is that I'll be able to talk about the characters and the things that revolve around them, whether good or bad. The downside is that talking about more things about the film specifically will be more challenging. So before we'll get to the toys, I'll just quickly give my brief thoughts and feelings about the film. Now, while the film is supposed to release the 22nd in Australia, one of the local film companies allowed people to watch it on the King's birthday as like a premiere or an early screening. Now, I went to that with a few friends of mine, in which the first thing I'm going to say is I'm never watching a film with a few of them again, but aside from that, I enjoyed the film. It was really good. It's way better than pretty much all of the Michael Bay movies. The actual Transformers themselves had good characters and actual personalities, with Noah and Elena as good human leads. Again, I won't get into specific characters, but I liked most of them. A few of them I didn't really like, but I'll get into who in other videos. The CGI was pretty good, and also the sound design was great. Again, spoilers. A thing I specifically loved about the film was when they played Arrival to Earth at the end of it. That just hit right home. Speaking of the ending, I'll get into one of my main issues. Yes, one of. So, I do not care about G.I. Joe. I have not seen any of the movies or the shows. I know there are crossovers before, but how many of them were outside the comics? This is a personal opinion, so if you love G.I. Joe, more power to you. I personally think it's just a bad idea, considering how most people this generation don't know about G.I. Joe. If the next movie turns out to be good, then I'll shut up. But if it turns out to be bad, then I'll say I told you so. I'll mention one of my other issues later in the video, but I think I'll stop talking about Rise of the Beast and then get talking about Rise of the Beast. Okay, so toy-wise, it's basically just been split in two. First up, you have the Studio Series. These are more complex and look more like the characters on screen. And then you have the Mainline, which is the more child-focused things, and is supposed to be a bit cheaper. Here's the easy way to spot the difference. Today, we will be looking at a few Mainline things. We'll have Studio Series in different videos. Here we have Deluxe Airazor and Voyager Rhinox, plus some bonuses. I guess we'll finally get started with Airazor. And just by looking at this, there are two things that come to mind. What are those colors? And accuracy. Let's tackle accuracy first. So as far as I know, most if not all the toys made for the film were based off concept art, or at least early designs, which is apparently why this one looks like a pigeon, and the other one looks like, I don't know, silverbolts from Beast Machines. Doesn't mean it's bad though. The sculpting is actually quite nice, although it feels less like a movie toy and more like something from Chug. I take no issue with that, but what I do take issue with is the colors. It feels a bit messy, like you have different spots of color like tan, brown, silver, and just not really specific places. I wouldn't say it ruins the alt mode, but a lot of the effort was put into robot mode and transformation, so the bird mode does kind of suffer for it. Speaking of suffering, the posability ain't great. The wings only go up and down, and the legs are quite limited, plus you can't really move the head around without it looking stupid. Would it be offensive to call her Bird Brain? That's a terrible segue, because now I'm about to talk about her in the film, when she dies. It is a bit unfortunate considering how I was liking her character, and a bit annoying because she never transformed in the film. Now we will never get to see her robot mode, unless it really is this, and I am glad I didn't get to see it. I do have more to say about that scene, but I think I'll save it for a different review. Plus we do have to move to robot mode, so maximize. While the transformation was hard to do in stop motion, it was actually fun and pretty complex for the size. The sacrifices in the bird mode make complete sense to me. Now we have the robot mode, and it is very good. All the busy colors in the alternate mode were clearly just done for the robot mode. The kibble management was absolutely genius. the legs becoming the wings, and the bird head just turning around on its spot. It sacrifices articulation for a more fun and dynamic sculpt. It was a good idea, considering how it's aimed more towards children. Oh yeah, fun fact, I believe this was the first ever Rise of the Beast toy leaked, but I didn't think most people would believe that because of the head sculpt. It straight up just isn't a movie style head, and it's a good thing. It's not as detailed as other movie head sculpts, but I find it more appealing because it just generally looks nice. She looks like I don't know how to describe this, like a normal person. While the movie head sculpts just look like abominations sometimes. But that's beside the point. Let's move on from looks, because you can already tell I like her appearance. Maybe even better than Beast Wars Airazor. I said she sacrifices articulation, and it's not actually as bad as what someone would guess from my words. There's no waist or foot pivot, but I'm fine with those. But there's one thing I feel like it's missing. So there's a slight curve to the lower arm because of the transformation, which is bad for the swords. Oh right, the swords. These do look quite cool, but are a bit small. But I completely understand why, because these have some pretty neat weapon storage, and are fine enough for weapon poses, although wish the wrist could move more. Also, something I just personally noticed. Not really noticed, more just a feeling. She reminds me of Pit so much. The swords, the wings, hell, even the fact that she's a bit small. We'll get to size comparisons in a moment, but before that, I'll say a few final words about her. She is a great deal of fun, a great and kind of complex transformation, and bonus points because she reminds me of a fictional character I like. So I'm gonna bump down Kingdom Airazor to a 7, and give the mainline one also a 7. The things each of them excel at make them on par for me. But we are not done yet today. Now this chunky guy is Voyager Rhinox, and I do mean chunky because he is quite square. I don't think animals look like that. Plus the back legs are just so tiny and feeble, it feels a little incomplete. And this is where we circle back to the movie. The film has a runtime of 2 hours and 7 minutes. Seems good, right? A bit short, but yeah, seems fine. But I remember the rumored runtime being 3 hours and 40 minutes. That's a lot you have to cut. But well, if the rumor is right anyway. And I can get why they cut it down. It would have been quite a lot to ask people to sit through a film of that length, considering how the last movie was Bumblebee, which was way more light-hearted and shorter to boot. I hope you at least get my point. Anyway, what were we talking about? Yeah, so this Rhino is very square in the back, but not really in the front. Let's focus on the pretty side first. The sculpting is quite nice. The skin feels a bit like bumpy, like I'm guessing a real rhino skin. I would not know because we do not have rhinos down here. Peeking out from all this rhino detail is mechanical detail. I love this detail, especially when it's picked out in this very nice silver. Although you could argue there's not enough silver, and I agree with that statement. At least a little silver to the back of this sort of ribcage thing. Moving forward, we have these powerful looking front legs. Like, these shoulders are certainly something. They're limited posability wise, but they just make a statement just being there. Although maybe a bit more paint would have been nice. And then we get to the rhino head. What a beast! Get it? I'll see myself out. Anyway, it's quite nice looking, but not really accurate. Again, not really that important. The little green eyes look cool. Again, the mechanical detail is great. There's the opening mouth. Although, for some reason, the horn is a slightly different color than everything else. It is a bit easier to see in the video than in real life. Just a little odd, I guess. Speaking of odd, hello. Not only that, we're going to adventure back to the ass. I don't know what the proportions of a rhino is supposed to be in the back, but I'm not sure it's supposed to be this. Plus, if you push the feet forward too much, they end up in the abyss. But they're not hard to get out. Let's avoid the obvious joke and end here. Wait. So yeah, good rhino mode. It's pretty much just a big paperweight, but there's no issue with that. It's basically a tradition with Rhinox here. But enough of that, we need to get to robot mode. Trying to animate that was also a bit of a pain, but we're here at the robot mode. And oh boy, does he look ugly. Yeah, let's focus on that first. He does try to look a bit like his Beast Wars version, but just mixed with the whole movie aesthetic. There's loads of new detail revealed, and most of it looks sick, like the chest. It looks like a buff guy who just ripped off his shirt or something. This type of detail works well for body parts, but not really the face. This is what I mean by ugly. There's too many sculpted lines. The mouth just looks weird, and those eyes. My god, those eyes. Yeah, I prefer how Airazor looks so much more. Plus she has, like, more diverse colors as well. Rhinox would have benefited a lot from maybe a secondary color? Maybe a bit of green. But we're not done here yet, since there's a pretty decent amount of kibble. The back of the legs I don't mind, since the legs are basically just a bunch of panels. But the butt flap does annoy me. It gets in the way of posability and just doesn't really stay in place. Speaking of which, there's more posability in general than Airazor, but doesn't feel like I get enough range with them. Also, the arm, like, moving in and out is a bit weird. I hope I can show that visibly because, what am I saying, it's basically obvious. Apart from some leg detail I'd like to mention, because it looks cool, let's take a look at the accessories. I absolutely love these accessories. So you get these two chain guns, which are like the ones back in Beast Wars, and if you don't know what they were like, couldn't find the right clip, but that'll do. Anyway, so these just go onto the hands, and god damn, I think these complete the design. The paint on these is quite wonderful. The sculpting is quite nice, plus they spin. So yeah, these are perfect. The Rhino storage is a bit odd, but yeah, we can ignore that. Also, forgot to mention this, but the transformation is actually pretty good. Just hard to do in stop motion. Speaking of hard, are you feeling too horny? Well, just remove it. Yeah, I don't really see a point to this, so I'm gonna just keep it on the back. You know, I believe that's all we have to discuss. So, would I recommend them? I would. Both of the transformations are fun and unique, more so Airazor. If you don't want to get the Studio Series or Kingdom versions, and you don't mind not really being accurate, these will do finely. I'm gonna say Airazor is probably better, but Rhinox brings a bit more to the table. Just before I forget, Rhinox gets a 7. These may be a bit hard to find, so don't pay too much for them. Try to get retail or a bit less, price-wise. So yeah, is there anything else I'm forgetting? Oh yeah, size comparisons. Here they are. Also, these little beast battle masters, I think are a bit expensive, but they're fine. I wish Rhinox had a bit more character in the film. What am I saying? I gotta thank you all for over 200 subscribers. I really do appreciate it. Like, I never thought I'd reach this far. I know it isn't like in the thousands, but gotta start small and work up to something bigger. And I hope me starting this like series of Rise of the Beasts reviews is enough to satisfy a sort of subscriber milestone. Just one last big thank you, and have a good day.